Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa condemns the killing of Nigerians in South Africa as both countries renew diplomatic ties in Abuja. National Assembly questions legality of President Muhammadu Buhari's Executive Order 6 on the preservation of suspicious assets linked to corruption, summons Attorney General to explain President's action. Police dispersed supporters of People's Democratic Party in Ado-Ekiti as Governor Ayo Fayose alleges assault and attack by policemen. And first footage of 12 Thai boys and their coach in hospital emerges as they're being treated after their dramatic rescue from a flooded cave.
On business news tonight, President Buhari signs bill separating Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, now to be domiciled in the central bank.
And on sports news tonight, heartbreak for England after Croatia scored an extra time winner to end the Three Lions' hopes of a second World Cup title.
And from Abuja, lawmakers in Plateau State House of Assembly passed vote of no confidence on the Speaker as he is impeached through a voice vote.
The House of Representatives has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to suspend the implementation of the Executive Order No. 6, which he recently signed into law in view of its controversial nature. A committee of the House says also to investigate all subsidiary legislations and executive orders in the country. The Senate considered the same issue in plenary and has summoned the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, to explain the constitutional basis for the executive order. Our correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has a report.
President Muhammadu Buhari signing the Executive Order number 006 of 2018 into law. The executive order aims to empower the government to seize any assets suspected to be proceeds of corruption, while the owners of such property are being investigated or tried for corruption.
Mr. Speaker, these powers are vested on the legislature.
The legislation was the focus of a heated debate in the House of Representatives. According to the motion sponsored by Representative Nicholas Osai and supported by 27 others, the recent executive order appears to hijack and usurp legislative and judicial powers.
The Executive Order 006 is a complete usurpation of the powers and functions of one, the legislature to enact the law. Two, the court that are vested on the power to adjudicate on these laws.
The motion led to a debate among lawmakers.
Section 5 does not give the executive the powers to now begin to extend its boundaries by giving itself powers to make laws,
but to now circumvent the rule of law and now create an order which now usurp the power of legislation and judiciary and add it to the power of the executive will be an aberration.
The first leg of what is being asked for in this is also a usurpation of the powers of the judiciary.
We recognize the pronouncement by the court, and what we are supposed to do if we have issues, and that's what the law has provided. Anytime there's any conflict on any issue, the best way to go and canvass to get the proper position is the court.
After over 2 hours, the motion was put to a vote.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against it say nay. The ayes have it.
With this resolution, the lawmakers are urging President Buhari to suspend and discontinue the application and implementation of the executive order in view of its controversial nature and its conflicts with relevant provisions of the law. The House is to constitute an ad hoc committee to scrutinize and investigate all subsidiary legislations and executive orders in Nigeria and report back within 4 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Meanwhile, the same issue came up in the Senate. The Senate, however, resolved to summon the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, to appear before it and explain the constitutional basis for the controversial executive order. The National Assembly has, however, made no move so far to take the matter to court for judicial interpretation. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
We'll now be joined on the news at 10 by Mr. Patrick Okolo, a legal practitioner and indeed a senior advocate of Nigeria, to look at the concerns raised by federal lawmakers on the signing into law of the Executive Order 6 recently. Mr. Okolo, thank you for joining us on the news at 10. Firstly, can you explain, for the clarity of our viewers, what the Executive Order 6 is about?
Yes, before I explain that, let me give a background. Nigeria is operating and a government where we have three arms: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. The judiciary interprets the laws. The legislature make the laws, and the executive carry out the laws that are existing, carry out all the provisions of the law. So an executive order is just a way of an executive coming up with executing the orders made by the legislation.
So again, what is Executive Order 6 about?
Executive Order 6 is about a government trying to usurp the powers of the judiciary and even the legislature. Any executive order made by government, by the president and his co-workers, are orders that should be in compliance with the law of the country, existing laws. And anyone that is not in compliance with the existing laws is authorized, and it cannot stand the test of time. It can even be taken to court, and a court will make a pronouncement on it. There are a lot of examples, both in Nigeria and in the United States, where executive orders are challenged in court and declared null and void because they run foul to the existing laws of the country.
You sound like you're siding with the lawmakers when you say that the president signing Executive Order 6, which you still have not explained, is usurping its powers. What are the powers that exist in the Executive Order 6?
The powers that is coming out of Executive Order 6 is seizing assets by the executive. The order to seize assets belongs to the judiciary. It is only judiciary that can make orders, declare an asset interim, and they know it, and they have cases in court where these things are pending. The court will make ex parte orders and even order absolute, but that the executive on his own, without reference to the judiciary, cannot start seizing assets of citizens.
So will the concerns raised by the lawmakers affect the validity of the law in any way?
Yes, my lord. These executive orders are not, they are not orders made by magicians. There are rules to be governed by the orders, executive orders of government. The orders of government are addressed to its internal workers, the ministers and the agencies of government. If these orders are not in accordance with the law made by the legislation has the right to challenge it, and they can do it by legislation, by declaring the order authorized, and it will not have effect. The other way is that the judiciary also, when any citizen decides to approach the judiciary can declare it, and in some cases, the judiciary can uphold the executive order. So that is how it goes.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how this plays out, both with the lawmakers and the courts. Thank you, Mr. Patrick Okolo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, the security operatives in Ekiti State today dispersed a rally of the People's Democratic Party at a popular Fajri Park in Ado-Ekiti the Ekiti state capital. But the state governor, Mr. Ayodele Fayose, made attempts to lead the crowd back to the park, an action that was met by strong resistance by the security agents. The party supporters, however, resolved to hold the rally within Government House premises.
Ahead of the Ekiti state governorship election on Saturday, all political parties still have till Thursday night to do their campaign, just as the People's Democratic Party is, here at the Government House in Ado-Ekiti, the state capital. But rather than their campaign calling for votes, it's calling for help against the police, who allegedly are brutalizing party members who had converged on Fajuyi Park in the state capital.
We gather so that we can go on a peaceful rally. We were led by His Excellency the Governor, Governor Dr. Pt.1. And as we came out of the gates of the government house, we found that we were being fired at, and tear gas canisters was fired at us.
The party's governorship candidate, Kolakwa Olushola Eleka, buttresses the allegations against the security operatives.
They must handle my governor, the sitting governor, slap them with the butt of the gun, even at his back, on his neck. They beat me on my right arm at the back, kick me on my foot, and I was challenging one of them. Do you know you are beating the deputy governor? He said, who is deputy governor? I mean, you can imagine.
To the excitement of party supporters, Governor Fayose arrives at the rally ground, his neck supported by a cervical collar.
I am in severe pain. I can't touch this neck anymore. If anything happens to me, the Inspector General of Police to be held accountable.
Professor Olushola Eleka restates his confidence of victory at the poll, insisting that nothing can make him waver, while also calling on supporters to come out in their numbers to exercise their franchise.
Meanwhile, police authorities in Ekiti State have said the reports of assault on supporters of the People's Democratic Party in the state and the alleged invasion of Government House by policemen are untrue. The police spokesperson in the state, Caleb Ikechukwu, describes the report as misleading and aimed at causing anxiety in Ekiti State. The statement adds that the PDP rally was stopped following advice by the State Commissioner of Police to the two major political parties to desist from holding their political rallies at the same time in order to avoid the breakdown of law and order. Meanwhile, the Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of operations, Habila Joshak, is insisting the police will not allow any unauthorized gathering in the state.
The sitting governor is the governor that has been chosen by the people, and we know how to choose our words and know how to do our things. We will not go and block his place to prevent him. He's free to go out, and anybody is free to go out. But we will not like people to gather and start another rally, because when you start that rally, containing with you, trying to ask you to go, using smoke is not the best option for now. And so the preventive measure is that anybody who have not gotten the permission of congregating in a day like this, in this state, should not be allowed to do so. Because if they gather and I carry all, I have the men, it will be unfair for me to go and inflict injury or anything on the people just to let them, to tell them don't go. So it's better to be preemptive by ensuring that they don't congregate, and we'll tell them politely.
In part two, after the break, armed men killed two police officers in line of duty in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Stay with us.